Hi guys, so my name is Katie, and a couple of my friends have reached out to me and told me that they would really enjoy it if I reported on cold cases. It's something that I've been super passionate about and have really been interested in doing for a while now, but I haven't had the time to do it with graduate school and internship and planning a wedding. But because of the COVID-19 virus, I'm all of a sudden finding that I have a lot of free time on my hands. And so I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. So if you like this video and it's something that you think that you would be really into, please subscribe at the link below. Let me know any cases that you might want to hear about in the comments. After a lot of thoughtful consideration and some extensive research, I decided that for my first case, I wanted to report on something that was close to home and something that didn't really get a lot of attention, and a case that I've never heard of before. If you're like me, this case will infuriate you. I think it will probably take me like maybe 10 minutes to report on it because of the lack of information surrounding this case. And hopefully we can shed some light on it, and maybe somebody out here somewhere has some information that they would be willing to share with law enforcement. So for this first case that I'm going to report on, I'm talking about something that's pretty close to home. Something that happened in Stanley County, North Carolina, which is really close to Charlotte, right outside of that area. It's pretty rural. There's a lot of farmland there, which is going to be important to this story, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So this is the story of Chance Douglas Smith. On Saturday, December 13th, 2003, at approximately 3:50 in the afternoon, 6-year-old Chance Douglas Smith was reported missing from his grandfather's house in Locust, North Carolina. Some reports have witnesses saying that they last saw him entering a wooded area with the family dog, a boxer, a little before 4 p.m. Other reports state that he was last seen in a horse pasture near his grandfather's house around that same time. Law enforcement responded to the missing persons call really quick, and they began organizing a search party. A group of around 100 individuals consisting of volunteers, police, firefighters, neighbors immediately gathered, and they conducted a grid search for the young boy. Now this search was a race against time and a race against weather. This was December, it's pretty chilly, and temperatures had begun to steadily decline, and it had also started freezing raining. And so, with freezing rain, it doesn't inhibit anyone from searching, but it makes conditions really unfavorable. Visibility can be kind of low, and it's cold, but it doesn't really freeze until it hits the ground. So they were able to continue to search. And this search party continued in the bad weather and the freezing cold conditions for almost 8 hours. At approximately 11:30 p.m., one of the volunteers, a Charlotte Mecklenburg police officer, found Chance lying face down in a horse pasture along Scout Road. Now, remember earlier when I said that this area was really rural, it's a lot of farmland? So if you pull up Google Maps, like I did, and you look at Scout Road, there's nothing there. A couple horse pastures, maybe a couple houses, but it's pretty remote, even today in 2020. And this happened back in 2003. So I would imagine it's not really changed a whole lot, if much at all, in the sense that if it's rural now, it must have really been rural then. So it begs the question, what was a 6-year-old boy doing on this remote road at almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon by himself? We're not really sure. And the investigation didn't really turn up much information, unfortunately. So when this Charlotte Mecklenburg police officer found Chance lying face down in this horse pasture, it was evident that he was really badly injured, and he was actually barely alive. He was immediately transported to the nearest hospital, which was 15 miles away, again, really rural, to Stanley Memorial Hospital in Albemarle, North Carolina. And despite life-saving efforts of the emergency responders and the hospital staff, Chance was pronounced dead in the early morning hours of Sunday, December 14th, 2003. Now, the medical examiner performed an autopsy and determined that the matter of death was a homicide. So this was, really devastating news to the family and to the community in Locust. Who would murder a 6-year-old innocent boy? And, the medical examiner's report listed that the cause of death was not only a homicide, but that it was a homicide from a traumatic brain injury. And this autopsy report revealed that the fatal injury to Chance was a blow to the back of his head. And in the report, you can actually see it dictates, like right here, like almost the crown of his head. And the medical examiner furthermore documented that he didn't believe that this injury occurred in that horse pasture where he was found. They believed that this occurred somewhere else and that he was left in the horse pasture. The Locust police conducted an investigation surrounding the death, and it also involved the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation as well as the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. And the special agent in charge for the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, Tony Underwood, shared that they believed that the murder weapon was an object that had both a blunt object, like a blunt surface, and a curved surface. So possibly like a farming tool. And again, this area is super rural. There's a lot of horse pastures, cow pastures, so it makes sense that it could have been some type of farming equipment. But they were never able to conclusively determine what this blunt instrument was, because the murder weapon was never recovered. During the investigation, police questioned Chance's immediate family, neighbors, anyone that was in the area, and they paid particularly close attention to his grandfather. Now, if you remember, his grandfather is the individual that reported him missing at 3:50 on December the 13th. But his story just kind of wasn't adding up with the evidence that the police had and that the medical examiner's autopsy reported. And upon further questioning, the police became increasingly aware that he was not willing to share any information about the circumstances surrounding Chance's death. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone murdered my 6-year-old grandchild, I would be an open book. What do you need to know? You need to search my house. You want my keys? Here you go. But he wasn't having any of it. He didn't want to be questioned. He didn't want to share any information. It was reported that he was really standoffish, very aggressive, and really just overall unwilling to cooperate with the police. And he was unwilling to cooperate at every single stage of the investigation. And consequently, his behavior created a really big rift in the family. And Chance's parents actually, eventually separated and divorced because of the family discord. And his father and grandfather wound up moving away from Stanley County and relocated to Tennessee. And Chance's mother, Pam, moved to South Carolina, where she still resides to this day. The investigation into Chance's death led to a dead end. In the early stages, there were several leads. There was even a prime suspect. But without the cooperation of the family, the investigation eventually grounded to a halt. And, unfortunately, the leads dried up. There wasn't any new information. The family wasn't willing to cooperate. And so the case went cold. Then, in September of 2008, shortly before the 5th anniversary of Chance's death, the Stanley News and Press ran a piece about the progress of the investigation. So the Locust police chief at the time, Mike Heigler, told the Stanley Press that there were a lot of leads and a lot of information that he couldn't share with the public because this is still considered an active investigation. And he also stated that they did have a prime suspect, but he wouldn't provide any further information regarding their identity or, how they came to that suspect or anything like that. When the Stanley Press asked about Chance's grandfather's involvement, Mike Hagler did share that he had been brought back to Locust for further questioning and that he continued to be uncooperative. Mike Hagler stated, quote, "We know he knows who it is, but for whatever reason, he is not willing to cooperate with us," end quote. So this is pretty telling. Never would cooperate at the beginning of the investigation, moved away, got brought back, still won't cooperate. He knows something, right? But he won't share. The case remains unsolved to this day, and there are a lot of different theories about what happened on that freezing, fateful night in December of 2003. Chance's mother, Pam, is one of the individuals who has a theory as to what happened to her son on that night. Some sources suggest that she believes that his death was an accident. She's been reported to say, quote, "I do believe it was more of an accident and some people freaked out and did the wrong thing. Instead of calling 911 and getting him help, they made the wrong decision," end quote. The Locust Police Department and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation continue to follow up on leads regarding Chance's case as they become available. They ask that if you have information about this case, to call the Locust Police Department at 704-888-4744. And as always, if you have information about this case or any unsolved case in the state of North Carolina, please contact the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation at 800-334-3000. And like I said at the beginning of this recording, it's infuriating that this is all of the information that there is on this case of this little boy. 6-year-old little boy who goes missing on a cold December evening is found murdered in cold blood, lying face down in a horse pasture. Family won't cooperate, and to this day, we still don't have any further leads. Stay tuned for my next case. If you know anything about this case, please contact the Locust Police Department or the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. If you have any ideas for my next case, please drop it below. And hopefully, we can all survive this global pandemic together. And maybe we can all find some answers for these families. I'm sure Chance's mother, Pam, would really love to know what happened to her son.